Welcome to the first episode of Wolf Reports, a new segment on the Freaks Movie Reviews channel. In these little videos we will talk about horror in general. What exactly is it? Why do we watch it? Why do most horror movies suck balls? And so on. I am Werewolf Leo, your host, and as a delicious treat for this first episode, I brought a special guest. Say hello to Yummy Bunny.
Hello.
Well, Yummy Bunny, are you ready to sink your teeth into this first episode?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. So, alright then. Roll the credits. Every person who calls himself a horror enthusiast has been there. You passionately talk about it with friends, family, or random strangers, and soon enough you find yourself in some pointless, inevitable, and gears-grinding discussion. I, for one, am no stranger to comments like,
"It's not a horror movie, it's not scary."
Actually, it's not a horror story. It's psychological. Horror cannot be psychological, you stupid shithead.
But that is not horror, okay? There is no gore, there is no blood.
Horror has a faith, and you must make a friend of horror.
Now I could call these comments out for the dumb, stupid, ludicrous, short-sighted, brainless, foolish, oblivious and ignorant opinions that they are, but that's not really what this first episode is about. Clearly many people have their own idea of what horror really is about. This of course is because horror deals with the dark, disgusting and scary, which is very subjective. Some people don't find a giant horrible CGI spider the least bit scary, can you imagine? While others get goosebumps by the mere sight of it. Chicken. Naturally, horror is a very diverse genre, and it comes in many forms and sizes, be it on paper, on the silver screen, in a video game, or your average Happy Madison production. So what is horror? How do you define horror? Well, like many, I have my own idea of what this wonderful genre is about, so I will try and explain it to y'all, and I will do so in 4 chapters. Yeah, that's right, this episode is in chapters. It's no big deal, it's just pretty cool, you know. Pretty cool. Okay, so remember that most of this will be opinion-based, obviously. You may agree or disagree or have a totally different idea of what horror is. If so, make sure you let me know in the comment section in the most obnoxious way you can. Also bear in mind that I will talk about the definition of horror fiction, so horror as a way of storytelling. With that said and done, let's get started. Chapter 1. The genre versus the emotion. For starters, let's take a look at the definition of horror on the Internet Dictionary. According to OxfordDictionaries.com, horror is an intense feeling of fear, shock or disgust. Their example, children screamed in horror. Okay, should we be concerned that this is the very first thing you people think of? I mean, damn, that's like the definition of killing being killing, verb, cause the death of a person, animal, or other living thing. Example, the cute baby pandas were killed when a blimp piloted by a Nazi crashed into the zoo. The blow should have killed them instantly, but instead they suffered agonizing pain waiting for the fire to slowly burn them to a shriveled, delicious crisp. All joking aside, this is a good definition of horror. Okay, no, wait, stop. Let me finish. This is a good definition of horror as an emotion. But when it comes to horror fiction, it encompasses much more emotions than that. It is true that almost every horror story tries to either scare, shock or disgust you in some way. But in most cases, those moments of pure horror only last a couple of seconds. Horror, in the context of an emotional response, is a natural, almost instinctive reaction. It's what you feel when Bob is slowly moving towards you, or when Hannibal Lecter makes that disgusting sound, or when Sadako crawls out of the TV. or when that hot lady turns into... Fill in your own horribly aged celebrity yourself. Most of the time, a horror story uses tension or suspense to build up to those moments.
And stick to the road. Oops.
This is often referred to as terror, and is a completely different emotion than horror. Besides that, horror can also deal with discomfort, anxiety, dread, and so on. Most of these dangle in the same area, but are different. The first horror movies by Universal, by the way, weren't even referred to as horror movies, but as mystery movies or fantastic thrillers. It just goes to show that horror is a very broad term. Claiming that it only deals with scares, shocks, and gross-outs is just as short-sighted as, say, claiming that all electronic music is techno. So in short, the definition of horror based only on what emotion it tries to evoke is a little too vague and incomplete. Instead, we have to take a look at how horror stories try to bring those emotions across. Let's take a look at where the horror really comes from. Chapter 2, The Origin of Horror.
The end will come quickly, my love. There is a pain beyond pain, an agony so intense it shocks the mind into instant oblivion. We'll find immortality together.
What is the basic premise of a horror story? What is the intention of the creator? Horror always comes from a dark idea, something morbid, frightening, or controversial. You know, the stuff that nightmares are made of.
Be my victim.
It doesn't just give you a bad scenario, it gives you the worst scenario. While most stories ask what if this or that were to happen, horror stories ask what if the worst were to happen. What if a psycho killer could kill you in your dreams?
I don't believe in fairy tales.
What if an alien could mimic other people? What if a virus turned people into flesh-eating monsters? What if a bat became a sentient being and tried to eat you? As far-fetched as some of these ideas get, they all prey on our most primal basic instinct, fear. And while fear also exists in many forms and sizes, it can be boiled down to two: fear of death and fear of the unknown.
She threw herself off the upstairs balcony. Why did she do that? Hard to say, really.
Look at me, Damien. It's all for you.
Why have you turned against me?
You're lying! You're lying! I know!
These two are the most dangerous threats to our existence, and thus our body reacts very strongly to them. And what horror basically does is exploit the shit out of that. It attempts to make you experience fear in the comfort of your own home, or movie theater, or wherever you feel safe. It draws inspiration from one of those primal fears that nature has given us. From our fear of death, we get of course every monster movie ever, including monsters with animal-like features like claws and teeth, as well as every horror story with a psycho killer. And from our fear of the unknown, we get stories about strange phenomena, unexplored territories, or concepts that are beyond our grasp or understanding. These kinds of horror stories, by the way, is what some people confuse with psychological. They are psychological, sure, but that doesn't mean it's not a horror story.
And ever.
As a side note, fear of the unknown also translates in our discomfort towards lack of identity. When certain identifiable features aren't there, we respond negatively as well. That is why lots of movie monsters have distorted or masked faces, or why that Goddess Bunny tap dancing video is the scariest thing you ever see in your life. Have fun sleeping tonight, suckers. So when it comes to defining what horror is about, we can specify that fear is the main ingredient. It is the core of every horror story. But there is one more aspect we have to discuss, and it is possibly the most important one of all. So if you'd like to know what it is, make sure you check out part 2 of this episode. Anyway, thanks for watching, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.